The quantum sensors aboard the Zarketh flagship Eternal Dawn pulsed with newfound data as the vessel dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of an unremarkable solar system. Supreme Commander Vexthal's 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the holographic display, his scaled fingers trailing through the projection of a blue-green planet that rotated slowly before him. "Another primitive world," he announced, his secondary voice box producing the harmonics of disappointed amusement. Curious how it remained undiscovered for so long. The bridge crew of the Eternal Dawn maintained their practiced efficiency, though several cast subtle glances at the projection. Earth, as the inhabitants called it, had been something of a myth in galactic society. A world that supposedly housed a species of remarkable potential, but what floated before them seemed utterly ordinary. "Initial scans complete, Supreme Commander," announced First Observer Kellerin, her crystalline sensory arrays glowing softly as she processed the data. "Atmospheric composition ideal for carbon-based life. Technology level: pre-stellar. We detect numerous artificial satellites, but they appear to be primarily communication and observation platforms. No significant defensive installations detected." Vexthal's upper lip curled in what passed for a smile among his species. The Zarketh Empire had subjugated countless worlds over the centuries, and this one would be no different. The myths about Earth and its inhabitants, humans, they called themselves, had clearly been exaggerated. "Deploy the survey drones," he ordered. "Standard containment pattern. Let's see what these humans have to offer before we announce ourselves." As the drones scattered across the solar system like seeds in the wind, Vexthal allowed himself to reflect on the stories he'd heard since his youth. Tales of human ingenuity, of their inexplicable ability to overcome superior forces, of their mysterious absence from galactic affairs, despite supposedly achieving spaceflight centuries ago. Such fascinating myths they had been, and myths they would remain. The minutes stretched into hours as the drones transmitted their findings. Mars, the red planet, appeared to be uninhabited save for a few abandoned research stations. The asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter showed signs of minimal mining activity. Everything pointed to a species still taking its first tentative steps into space. "Supreme Commander," Keldrin's voice carried an unusual note of puzzlement. "We're detecting some anomalies in the scan data." "Explain." "The energy signatures from Earth don't quite match their apparent technological level. There are inconsistencies, patterns that suggest more advanced technology, but they appear and disappear too quickly to analyze." Vexthal's secondary eyes focused on the observer while his primary pair remained fixed on the holographic display. "Sensor malfunction." "Unlikely, Supreme Commander. The patterns are too consistent to be random errors, yet too irregular to be natural phenomena." Before Vexthal could respond, another officer spoke up. "Supreme Commander, we're detecting a transmission from the third planet. They've noticed us. Put it through." The bridge speakers crackled to life with a voice that was surprisingly clear and composed. "Unknown vessel, this is Earth Defense Command. You have entered restricted space. Please identify yourself and state your intentions." A ripple of amusement passed through the bridge crew. Earth Defense Command. From a pre-stellar civilization. The very notion was absurd. Vexthal gestured to his communications officer to open a channel. "This is Supreme Commander Vexthal of the Zarketh Empire. Your world has been chosen for integration into our dominion. Render your surrender, and the transition will be peaceful." The response came without hesitation. "Supreme Commander, we must decline your offer. We recommend you withdraw from this system immediately." Vexthal's amusement faded slightly at the calm confidence in the human's voice. There was no fear, no panic, not even a hint of the awe that primitive species typically displayed when first confronting a spacefaring civilization. "Perhaps I wasn't clear." Vexthal's voice hardened. "This is not a negotiation. The Zarketh Empire has chosen your world. Resistance would be unfortunate." "We understand completely, Supreme Commander," the human replied, their tone unchanged. "However, Our position remains the same. This system is protected space. You have 10 minutes to begin withdrawal procedures." Vexthal's upper eyes blinked in surprise while his lower pair narrowed in anger. "You dare threaten the Empire? With what? Your primitive satellites? Your atmospheric aircraft?" 7 minutes, Supreme Commander. The sheer audacity of it struck Vexthal like a physical blow. He turned to his tactical officer. "Battle stations. Deploy the fleet in standard conquest formation. Let's show these primitives the futility of their—" "Supreme Commander." Keldrin's voice cut through his orders. "The anomalous readings. They're intensifying. I'm detecting massive energy spikes throughout the system." Vexthal's attention snapped back to the holographic display just as dozens of new signatures blazed to life. They appeared everywhere, in orbit around Earth, hidden within the asteroid belt, beneath the surface of Mars, and in places where moments ago their scans had shown nothing but empty space. "Impossible," he breathed, all four eyes widening as the signatures resolved into clear images. Space stations, defense platforms, and ships, hundreds of ships, materializing from what had appeared to be empty void. Their design was unlike anything in Imperial records, their energy signatures completely alien to Zarketh sensors. The human voice returned, still maddeningly calm. 3 minutes, Supreme Commander. We really do recommend withdrawal." As Vexthal watched in stunned silence, more ships appeared, their hull designs sleek and predatory, their weapons unlike anything he'd encountered in centuries of warfare. The myths, he realized with dawning horror, had not been exaggerations, they had been warnings. 1 minute came the final countdown, and Vexthal found himself facing a choice that no Supreme Commander of the Zarketh Empire had made in 10,000 years. He would have to retreat. But as he opened his mouth to give the order, a new transmission cut across all frequencies, and for the first time since entering the system, Vexthal heard something other than calm confidence in the human voice. He heard pity. "Time's up, Supreme Commander. We tried to warn you." The space around Earth erupted in a dazzling display of light as hundreds of human vessels engaged their primary drives. Supreme Commander Vexthal watched in disbelief as his sensor screens filled with targets, each moving with a precision that spoke of centuries of preparation. The humans hadn't just been hiding. They had been waiting. "Evasive maneuvers," he barked, but the order came too late. The first wave of human weapons struck the Zarketh fleet with surgical precision. These weren't the crude nuclear devices or primitive kinetic weapons that their initial scans had detected. Instead, beams of concentrated quantum energy sliced through Imperial shields as if they were mere holographic projections. Multiple direct hits across the fleet. First Observer Kellerin reported, her voice tight with barely controlled panic. "Our shields, they're not just failing, Supreme Commander. The humans are somehow phasing right through them." In the command center of Earth's orbital defense platform Alpha, Admiral Sarah Chen watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. Beside her, Dr. James Martinez, the architect of humanity's quantum defense network, studied the tactical displays. "The quantum interference fields are working exactly as designed," Martins noted, adjusting his glasses. 300 years of preparation, and they never saw us coming. Chen nodded, remembering the day humanity had first detected the Zarketh Empire's expansion across the galaxy. It had been pure luck, a quantum telescope experiment that accidentally picked up traces of their faster-than-light travel. That discovery had changed everything. "Send in the Phantom squadrons," Chen ordered. "Let's show them what else we've been working on." Back on the Eternal Dawn, Vexthal struggled to comprehend what he was seeing. Squadrons of smaller human vessels were literally phasing through solid matter, passing through asteroids and debris before materializing to launch devastating attacks. His fleet's return fire passed harmlessly through them, as if targeting ghosts. "Supreme Commander," Kelrin's voice shook. "I'm detecting massive energy buildups on Mars. The abandoned research stations, they're not abandoned at all. The surface of Mars shed its camouflage like a snake shedding its skin. Massive installations rose from the red soil, their true purpose finally revealed. They weren't ruins or abandoned outposts. They were fortress cities, bristling with weapons that had lain dormant for centuries. How? Vexthal demanded of no one in particular. How did we not see this? The answer came in the form of another transmission, but this time it wasn't from Earth Defense Command. The holographic projector sparked to life, showing an elderly human, female, in what appeared to be ceremonial robes. "I am Dr. Elena Rossi, director of the Silent Guardian Initiative," she announced, her aged face bearing the weight of centuries of preparation. 300 years ago, humanity made a choice. When we detected your empire's expansion, we could have announced ourselves, could have joined the galactic community. Instead, we watched, we learned, we prepared. Vexthal's secondary voice box produced a sound of pure frustration. "Impossible. Our scouts have monitored this system for decades. We saw nothing of this technology." Rossi smiled, the expression somehow both kind and terrifying. "Of course you didn't. While your empire expanded through brute force, humanity chose a different path. We developed technologies based not on power, but on perception. We didn't build bigger weapons. We built invisible ones. We didn't create impenetrable shields. We created ones that couldn't be detected in the first place." As if to emphasize her point, another wave of human ships phased into existence, their quantum drives warping space in ways that defied imperial science. They'd move like water, flowing around Zarketh weapons fire before solidifying to launch their own attacks. "Your entire fleet," Rossi continued, "is currently surrounded by defense platforms that have been here for over 2 centuries. You didn't see them because we didn't want you to see them. The satellites you detected, decoys, the primitive technology readings, a carefully constructed facade. In Earth orbit, Admiral Chen watched as the Phantom squadrons executed their attack runs with perfect coordination. The Zarketh ships, their weapons designed to overpower conventional shields, found themselves helpless against defenses that operated on completely different principles. Do you know why we chose to wait, Supreme Commander?" Rossi asked, her voice taking on an almost maternal tone. "It wasn't fear. It wasn't weakness. We waited because we wanted to understand. We wanted to be certain that when we finally revealed ourselves, there would be no doubt about the outcome." Vexthal watched as another wave of quantum beams cut through his fleet's formation. The mighty ships of the Zarketh Empire, conquerors of 1,000 worlds, were being systematically dismantled by an enemy they hadn't even known existed. "Your empire expands through fear and force," Rossi continued. "You see a primitive world and assume it needs to be conquered, civilized, integrated. But you never stop to consider that perhaps what you were seeing was exactly what we wanted you to see." The tactical display showed more human ships emerging from what had appeared to be simple asteroid clusters. Each revelation brought with it new horrors for the Imperial fleet. Their sensors, designed to detect and counter any known form of technology, were worse than useless. They were actively misleading. "We are giving you one final chance, Supreme Commander," Rossi's voice hardened slightly. "Withdraw your fleet. Return to your empire. Tell them what you found here. Tell them about the power of patience, of preparation, of choosing to wait rather than to dominate." As if to punctuate her words, the human fleet executed a maneuver that should have been impossible. Their ships moved in perfect synchronization, forming patterns that seemed to bend the very fabric of space. The message was clear. They weren't just winning this battle, they were controlling every aspect of it. "And Supreme Commander," Rossi added, her image beginning to fade, "remember this. What you've seen today is only a fraction of what humanity has become. We chose to reveal ourselves to your empire first, because you were the most aggressive, the most expansionist. Consider carefully what that means for your future." The transmission ended, leaving Vexthal staring at empty space where her image had been. Around him, his mighty fleet lay in ruins, destroyed not by superior firepower, but by an enemy that had simply thought differently about the nature of warfare itself. Deep within the quantum-shielded chambers of Earth's Strategic Command, Admiral Chen studied the holographic representation of the solar system. The Zarketh fleet's remnants had retreated to the outer edges of the system, but everyone knew this wasn't over. The Empire had never faced defeat in its recorded history. They wouldn't accept this one easily. "They're calling for reinforcements," Dr. Martins announced, his quantum sensors detecting the subtle ripples of faster-than-light communications, multiple signals heading toward their core worlds. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Right on schedule. In the observation deck of the Eternal Dawn, Supreme Commander Vexthal seethed with rage and humiliation. Half his fleet lay in ruins, the wreckage of mighty Imperial vessels scattered across the solar system like broken toys. The other half was barely operational, their most advanced systems rendered useless by human quantum interference. Supreme Commander Kelrin approached cautiously, her crystalline arrays dimmed in deference. "The Imperial Council has responded to our distress call. They're dispatching the First Legion. 5,000 ships, including 3 world breakers." Vexthal's 4 eyes narrowed. The world breakers were the Empire's ultimate weapons, massive vessels capable of literally tearing planets apart. Never in Imperial history had 3 been deployed simultaneously. How long until they arrive? 4 standard days, Supreme Commander. Back on Earth, Dr. Elena Rossi stood before the United Earth Council, her ceremonial robes flowing as she addressed the assembled leaders. The chamber, hidden 2 kilometers beneath the Himalayan mountains, hummed with quiet energy as quantum computers processed real-time data from across the solar system. "Phase 1 is complete," she announced. "The Empire has responded exactly as our behavioral models predicted. They're escalating, drawing more forces into our sphere of influence." Council President Adebayo leaned forward. "And you're certain about Phase 2? Once we reveal the full extent of our capabilities, there's no going back." Rossi's weathered face showed no doubt. "The Empire needs to understand that humanity didn't just prepare for a battle. We prepared for a fundamental shift in galactic power. The world breakers they're sending. We've had countermeasures in place for 2 centuries. In the void between Jupiter and Saturn, hidden quantum sensors detected the first tremors of approaching Imperial reinforcements. The humans had long since mastered the art of detecting faster-than-light travel, their understanding of quantum mechanics having evolved far beyond what the Empire thought possible." Admiral Chen activated a secure channel to the Phantom Fleet, her voice carrying to ships that officially didn't exist. "Begin Operation Starfall. You know your targets." Across the solar system, hundreds of stealth vessels slipped into quantum phase, becoming one with the fabric of space itself. They carried no conventional weapons. They didn't need to. Their very existence violated what the Empire thought possible, and that made them the deadliest weapons ever created. On the Eternal Dawn, Vexthal was reviewing tactical data when something impossible happened. His ship's quantum core, the heart of its faster-than-light capabilities, simply stopped. Not violently, not with any warning. It just ceased to exist. "Supreme Commander," Keldrin's voice held pure terror. "We're detecting similar failures across the fleet. Our quantum cores are being erased." "Explain," Vexthal demanded. "It's as if they never existed in the first place. The humans aren't destroying them. They're removing them from reality itself." A new transmission cut through the chaos, and Dr. Martinez's voice filled the Imperial command deck. "Fascinating technology, your quantum cores," he said conversationally. "We spent decades studying them, learning how to not just counter them, but to remove them from the quantum fabric of the universe. Right now, your entire fleet exists in a state of temporal uncertainty. You're here, but also not here." The implications hit Vexthal like a physical blow. The humans hadn't just prepared defenses, they had learned to manipulate the fundamental forces that the Empire's technology relied upon. "The reinforcements you're expecting," Martins continued, "they won't help. Every ship that enters this system will face the same fate. We've turned our entire solar system into a quantum nullification zone. Your technology simply cannot exist here unless we allow it to." In the Himalayan command center, Rossi watched the Empire's reactions through quantum surveillance systems that could read the fluctuations in space-time itself. "They still don't understand," she told President Adebayo. "They think this is about military superiority. It's not. It's about showing them a different way of thinking." "Will they learn?" Adebayo asked. "They'll have to. Because what's coming next will challenge everything they think they know about the nature of reality itself." As if on cue, quantum sensors detected the first wave of Imperial reinforcements preparing to exit faster than light travel. 5,000 ships, including the dreaded world breakers, about to enter a solar system that humanity had spent 3 centuries turning into the galaxy's most sophisticated trap. Admiral Chen watched the approaching signals and gave the order that would begin the next phase of humanity's revelation. "Execute Operation Phoenix. Let's show them what humanity has really become." The solar system itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the moment when the Empire would learn that everything they'd seen so far, the quantum weapons, the phantom ships, the reality-altering technology, had just been humanity's opening move. The void between Jupiter and Saturn erupted with energy as the Imperial reinforcements tore through the fabric of space-time. 5,000 ships, led by 3 world breakers, emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect attack formation. Their arrival should have been a moment of triumph, a display of overwhelming force that had brought countless civilizations to their knees. Instead, they emerged into silence. Admiral Chen stood in Earth's quantum command center, watching the massive Imperial fleet with something approaching pity. "They still think this is about ships and weapons," she said softly. "Begin the reveal." Across the solar system, space itself began to change. The quantum fabric that humanity had spent centuries weaving into the very structure of their solar system activated. It wasn't just a defensive network, it was a fundamental reimagining of how reality itself could be manipulated. On the bridge of the Imperial flagship Worldender, Fleet Master Zurix watched in horror as his sensors reported something impossible. "The solar system, it's moving." He wasn't speaking metaphorically. The entire solar system, every planet, moon, and asteroid, was shifting, not through conventional movement, but through quantum repositioning. Humanity hadn't just learned to bend space, they'd learned to fold reality itself. Dr. Martinez's voice echoed through every Imperial command deck. "Welcome to humanity's true home. What you're witnessing is the activation of the quantum lattice, a network we've spent 3 centuries weaving into the fabric of our solar system. Your ships haven't just entered our space, they've entered our domain." The Imperial fleet's weapons came to life, thousands of energy beams and projectiles launching toward Earth. But something strange happened. The attacks never reached their target. Instead, they curved and twisted, following paths that shouldn't have been possible, before dissolving into quantum particles. "Impossible," Zurix breathed. "Our weapons are operating exactly as designed," Martinez finished for him. "But you're trying to use conventional physics in a space where humanity has rewritten the rules. Here, we don't just control technology. We control reality itself." The world breakers, massive ships designed to tear planets apart, activated their primary weapons. Energy began building in their world-killing arrays, enough power to shatter Earth into cosmic dust. But as the energy built, something unexpected happened. It began flowing backward, feeding into itself in an endless loop. Supreme Commander Vexthal, watching from his crippled flagship, finally understood. "They're not fighting us," he whispered. "They're changing the nature of warfare itself." In the Himalayan command center, Dr. Rossi nodded in satisfaction. "Show them the arrays," she ordered. Across the solar system, massive structures began emerging from quantum phase. They weren't weapons or shields. They were something far more profound. Each array was a quantum computer the size of a small moon. but they didn't process data in any way the Empire could understand. Instead, they processed reality itself. Your empire expanded through force. Rossi's voice carried to every Imperial ship. You conquered worlds, subjugated species, imposed your will through superior firepower. But while you were building bigger ships and stronger weapons, humanity took a different path. We looked at the fundamental laws of the universe and asked, what if these laws aren't fixed? What if reality itself is negotiable? The arrays pulsed with energy, and the space around the Imperial fleet began to shift. Ships found themselves operating under different laws of physics, their most basic systems struggling to function in an environment where cause and effect had become suggestions rather than rules. Admiral Chen activated humanity's final defensive measure. Execute Operation Paradigm. The quantum fabric of space rippled, and suddenly the Imperial fleet found itself surrounded by something they couldn't comprehend. It wasn't ships or weapons, it was pure possibility, shaped and controlled by human will. The World Breakers, the mightiest weapons in Imperial history, hung helpless in space, their reality-destroying weapons rendered meaningless in an environment where reality itself was under human control. You see, Martinez explained, his voice carrying a teacher's patience, we didn't build better weapons. We didn't create stronger shields. We fundamentally changed what it means to exist in this space. Your ships aren't being destroyed. They're being invited to operate under new physical laws, laws that humanity has spent centuries learning to write. Fleet Master Xerix watched as his mighty armada became little more than an interesting physics experiment in humanity's quantum laboratory. Ships weren't exploding or being torn apart. They were simply being invited to exist differently, their very nature shifting under humanity's gentle but irresistible guidance. 3 centuries ago, Rossi continued, humanity made a choice. When we detected your empire's expansion, we could have prepared for war in the traditional sense. Instead, we prepared to change the very nature of conflict. The quantum technology you've witnessed isn't just advanced science. It's a new way of thinking about existence itself. The arrays pulsed again, and the Imperial fleet found itself existing in multiple states simultaneously. Their mighty ships both here and not here, their weapons both fired and unfired, their very reality becoming a conversation rather than a fixed state. Supreme Commander Vexval, watching the impossible unfold before him, finally understood the true magnitude of humanity's achievement. They hadn't just outmatched the Empire's military might, they had transcended the very concept of military conflict itself. In the quantum-shifted space between Mars and Jupiter, the mighty Imperial fleet hung suspended in possibility. The 3 world breakers, pride of the Empire's military might, existed in a state of quantum uncertainty, both the most powerful weapons ever created, and in this rewritten reality, nothing more than elaborate sculptures in the void. Dr. Elena Rossi stood before the quantum projection in Earth's Himalayan command center, her aged hands steady as she prepared for humanity's final revelation. It's time, she said softly. Show them what we really built all this for. Admiral Chen nodded and initiated the final sequence. Across the solar system, the arrays began to pulse with new energy, not destructive or defensive, but transformative. The quantum fabric that humanity had woven through their corner of space began to shift, not to contain or control, but to invite and embrace. Leaders of the Zarketh Empire, Rossi's voice carried across space, gentle but unwavering. What you've witnessed isn't just humanity's defense. It's our invitation. On the bridge of the World Ender, Fleet Master Xerix felt something change. The quantum uncertainty affecting his ships didn't dissipate, but it transformed. Suddenly, he could perceive multiple realities simultaneously, seeing possibilities that his species had never imagined. 3 centuries ago, Rossi continued, when we first detected your empire's expansion, we faced a choice. We could have prepared for war, built weapons to match yours, created defenses to withstand your assault. But we saw something in your empire that perhaps you've forgotten yourselves. The arrays shifted again, And this time they didn't project power or control, they projected understanding. Every Imperial officer, from Supreme Commander Vexthal to the lowest crew member, suddenly found themselves able to perceive reality as humanity had learned to see it. You built your empire on the premise that power flows from the barrel of a gun, that civilization advances through force, Dr. Martinez added, his voice joining Rossi's in the quantum transmission. But we looked at your history, at the countless species you've conquered, and we saw not just conquerors, but seekers. Every world you claimed, you sought to understand its science, its knowledge, its potential. In the Quantum Command Center, Admiral Chen watched as the Imperial fleet's quantum signatures began to shift, not through human control, but through their own awakening understanding. "They're beginning to see," she whispered. "Your empire spreads across thousands of worlds." Rossi continued, "Each with its own sciences, its own understanding of reality. But you've always approached knowledge as something to be conquered, controlled, dominated. We spent 3 centuries learning a different way, not to control reality, but to dance with it." The erased pulsed one final time, and suddenly the Imperial fleet found itself not just observing humanity's quantum reality, but participating in it. Ships that had been weapons of war became instruments of perception, their crews experiencing existence on levels they had never imagined possible. Supreme Commander Vexthal, his 4 eyes wide with wonder, finally understood. "You weren't hiding from us," he said, his voice carried through the quantum field. "You were waiting for us to be ready." "Yes," Rossi smiled. "Your empire has spent millennia gathering knowledge, but always through the lens of power. We waited, we prepared, not to fight you, but to show you what's possible when knowledge is pursued not for dominance, but for understanding." The arrays began to sing, their quantum frequencies resonating with the fundamental forces of reality itself. The Imperial fleet, still suspended in possibility, felt their ships responding, not breaking or failing, but awakening to new potential. "This is humanity's true gift to the galaxy," Martinez explained. "Not weapons that can destroy worlds, but understanding that can transform them. Not shields that can repel attacks, but knowledge that makes conflict itself obsolete." Across the solar system, the quantum fabric rippled with new purpose. The Imperial ships found themselves not disarmed or defeated, but elevated. Their quantum cores, which humanity had seemed to erase, were instead transformed, awakened to possibilities their creators had never imagined. "Your empire stands at a crossroads," Rossi said, her voice carrying the weight of centuries of preparation. "You can retreat, return to your worlds, continue your path of conquest, or you can join us in understanding the universe as it truly is, not a battlefield to be conquered, but a mystery to be explored." In the silence that followed, Supreme Commander Vexthal made a decision that would reshape the galaxy. He paused, feeling the weight of history on his words. "We choose to understand." The quantum fabric of space smiled, if such a thing were possible, and humanity's arrays began to share not just power or knowledge, but wisdom. The Imperial fleet, which had arrived as conquerors, remained as students, their mighty ships now laboratories for a new kind of science. Dr. Elena Rossi, her life's work finally complete, looked out at the transformed fleet and spoke her final words as director of the Silent Guardian Initiative. "Welcome, friends, to humanity's greatest discovery. That the true power of civilization lies not in its ability to destroy, but in its capacity to transform. Let us explore reality together." And in the quantum-shifted space of humanity's solar system, 2 civilizations began a journey that would change not just their own futures, but the very nature of existence itself. The Silent Guardians had completed their centuries-long mission, not by defeating an enemy, but by creating something far more powerful: understanding.